The Earnestly Speaking podcast is a show that is founded on free-flowing conversation and may at times venture into mature subjects. Listener discretion is advised.
Earnest Speaking podcast here on April 16th, 2020. Still lockdown, quarantine, lifestyle here. It's now week 5 for me. We're getting to the end of week 5, should I say, since I last worked or had a normal life. I'm not gonna lie, part of me does enjoy this only because I've been able to reconnect with my family. I've been able to, it sounds very stupid, but catch up on shows, be able to slow down. But I do miss my job. I do miss my coworkers. I do miss the opportunity to go see my family and friends when I want to. Now, granted, I didn't do that much even before because of the lifestyle, the schedules and all that. But I do miss that. So I actually didn't even want to record this right now, but I'm pushing because I again, one of the things I mentioned on the last episode I did, I find it hard to record now with more time allotted to me, because even though I'm not working right now currently, or my wife currently not working either, I'm still, because you have to homeschool our kid, because I have to do all these other things and keep the kids entertained, and by the time we get to putting the kids to sleep for the night, I'm worn out. I have nothing to give. So, part of the reason why you've seen less episodes, or pretty much the same pace episodes as you get on a normal basis, is because of that. The bandwidth is low. The bandwidth is small. It's harder. To be honest, it's I think it's a lot harder to do this from the home and navigate. The balance is necessary. School, work, events, other things is necessary. It's good mentally also too. But there's some good, obviously, to this, and some bad to this, obviously. So we'll push on today. I'm going solo. Today, unfortunately, woke up to news that, and this is, I'll say the first couple of minutes of the show, at least good half of the show, is going to be wrestling heavy, so bear with me here. But that's one of the only things going on right now, to be honest, is wrestling, WWE, being essential. According to the governor of Florida, Ron DeSantis, it is essential business. Well, a lot of opinions there. I'll share in a second. But I did look up to the news this morning about the passing of WWE retired but announced legend Howard Finkle, the Fink, passed away at age 69. That one hurt a lot, and it's funny because about a month ago I was watching some old stuff on the network, and I was watching, I think, WrestleMania 4 or 5, and obviously that's the peak of his era when he was there, of course. And we've heard, if you pay attention to the course, though, we've heard about his health issues in recent months and years. But the fact that he's gone now, age 69, still relatively young if you think about it by today's standards. It hurt. It kind of hurt in the same way when Mean Gene Okerlund died last year. Howard Finkle, I always said he's arguably the greatest ring announcer of any sport or sports entertainment. His voice is very distinct. Iconic moments that he's been a part of. The way he says certain people's names: Hulk Hogan, Steve Austin, The Rock, Ultimate Warrior. A lot of guys. He's what I call the cherry on top. The signature. Because he has a product, of course, and the guys do what they're doing, but he adds an extra layer of greatness to the product that is WWE for many years. And his signature, the and new, that started from him. From the Fink. So this one stung. This one really stung. It sucked. And again, I'm very passionate about pro wrestling. You know, I've been since I was age of 7. You know, even when I stopped watching, I still always lean on the old stuff. And obviously, when you lean on the old stuff, Howard Finkle is always ever present in there. You know? So, you know, hold on, my phone's going off real quick. I'm going to pause this. I'm just have a group chat going here. I want to pause real quick just in case recording here. Hold on. But yeah, he was a standard, of what, old school wrestling fans, give me 1 second to pause this real quick. Pause notifications for an hour. There we go. Alright. He's the standard of that. And, it's gonna be missed. Again. And that's Fink. That is his signature. And we're gonna miss him. So, thoughts and prayers to him and his family and friends, to WWE Universe, especially to fans who are obviously grieving of that. Yeah, it's sad to hear that, man. It really is. Yeah. Also on the WWE side as well too. Last week I spoke about this. By the way, if you haven't subscribed to my wrestling podcast, Take 3 Wrestling, do so on any podcast catcher out there. It's a show I do with me, my friends Mike and Joe. We do weekly, and we bring in a take. Each of us brings a take of the week. Well, during the news section of this show, the topic of Ronda Rousey came up. Ronda Rousey has been rumored to be returning to WWE at some point, and whether this next couple months or whatever, if this even happens, I don't know. That's been rumored anyway. But she was on a podcast with maybe it was Steve-O from Jackass or someone like that. She's on a podcast, and I guess they're talking about WWE and her experience, whatnot, and whether she's coming back. And here's a quote I'm going to read. I was trying to find the audio for this. I couldn't find the audio, so I'm going to read her quote-unquote what she said about WWE Universe. Quote, "What am I doing it for if I'm not being able to spend my time and energy on my family, but instead spending my time and my energy on a bunch of fucking ungrateful fans that don't even appreciate me?" She said this on the appearance of the Wild Ride podcast. "The thing is, I love performing. I love the girls. I love being out there. But at the end of the day, I was just like, fuck these fans, dude. My family loves me. They appreciate me. I want all of my energy to go into them." Okay, so when we discussed on the podcast this past Sunday, we recorded on Sunday. Obviously, all three of us actually were for the most part on the same page about, screw Ronda Rousey. She has no appreciation for the business and this and that. She stinks anyway in the ring and this and that. But then I look at some of the context of what she was saying, because I try to be fair and balanced when it comes to deciphering these things. I don't want to just throw it all in her face if there was a point she was making. And I see why. I can understand why. I'm still leaning towards Rousey being a little more, not out of touch, but a little more, it's a complainer type, if you will. There is something to be said about what she's saying there. Because whether you like the fact that WWE goes after these big names to bring to the company, the latest one is now Rob Gronkowski. He's a part of SmackDown, and I'm not necessarily enjoying that, but I understand why they're doing it. They've done it for years. This is something they've done for years to bring eyeballs. They bring eyeballs to the product, and I got to be honest with you. Becky Lynch should be thanking Ronda Rousey, because as a result, her now year-long title reign has been substantiated by the fact that Ronda Rousey brought eyeballs to, a situation where last year's WrestleMania 35 was the main event. It was the first ever women's main event. 3-way title match between her, to Rousey, Becky Lynch, and Charlotte Flair. Ronda Rousey brings eyeballs, whether you like her or not. Okay? Now, that being said, I do think... and by the way, real quick, also if I go to the next point, there is something to be said about ungrateful wrestling fans. I go on wrestling Twitter for the last year now. Now I'm back to watching after 17 years. And I gotta be honest with you, wrestling fans are just as bad as NBA fans. Wrestling Twitter is just as bad as NBA Twitter. It's just as bad as Beyonce Twitter. They complain. And I will be honest, wrestling fans are probably some of the worst. Not complaining the ones that listen to this podcast, of course, or whatever, but not all. But there's a large segment of wrestling fans who just bitch and moan and bitch about every little thing, no matter what. And Rousey makes a point that some of them are very ungrateful. Okay, there's a point to be made there, actually. But this is what goes back now to Rousey. Now, why I still disagree with what she did here. And by the way, I do appreciate her being honest. And I mean, maybe this might be a shoot, a work, I don't know. But she's also very thin-skinned. This is something I spoke about years back when she lost to Holly Holm and the way she handled that. Now, obviously, there's a lot of mental situation. I don't say illness, but situations there where she said she suffered depression, this and that. And I get that, and I'm very sensitive to that stuff. I don't want to knock that either, because that's real. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, she is very thin-skinned. You know. Now, I still think this might be a work. I think she might use this when she returns to WWE, because we've been hearing rumors for weeks now that she is on the way back. We thought maybe she may appear at WrestleMania, which she did not, obviously. And I'm not even sure if that would have been the case if WrestleMania was normal this year, wasn't quarantined, fanless WrestleMania. Maybe she would have appeared there. But the point is, she raises some good points, but she comes off as thin skin. But I also believe this is a work. I believe that this could be a work going forward. She'll be on a part-time schedule. Supposedly if she goes back, we'll see what happens there. But she's a little thin-skinned. She needs to, I don't know, just to relax a little bit. Just a little bit. Yesterday, they were, speaking of staying in the WWE real quick, there was a lot of layoffs. A lot of criticism, too, because the WWE, the governor of Florida, Ron DeSantis, said that the WWE is essentially an essential business. And they did a live Raw this past Monday, going to do live shows now going forward. I believe NXT was live yesterday. I believe SmackDown will be live tomorrow as well, too. But there are a lot of layoffs yesterday. And some furloughs and a lot of layoffs. So the optics are kind of bad there to some degree. A lot of people are pissed off at the WWE because of the fact that, Linda McMahon, the wife of Vince, is also a part of the Trump administration. She's donated money to the super PACs. There's a lot of political influence and stuff involved in this as to why they would do this. I'll be honest with you, I've been on the shutdown thing for a little while now, but I also agree that, and so far WWE's done a great job with maintaining, staying within the orders, and I believe if they can continue to adhere to the social distancing rules, which they have done so far. They did a whole WrestleMania for 2 nights, as granted taped shows, but still, and have essential, employees there in place. I'm actually okay with them doing business, because at some point with this situation, we're gonna have to get to start getting back to normal at some point. And again, this is another situation that even in the pandemic, we are still politically obtuse. We still everything is still about the politics. It's annoying now. I do think my opinion is that we need to start as the numbers I believe are starting to. If this is true, we've heard reports now, and now obviously a lot of misinformation going left and right, of course. But numbers in Florida are supposedly flattening now. Now there's a lot of new testing going on too as well. And we'll see if that changes the scope, if that continues to be consistent. Yeah, if the numbers continue to flatten by the end of this month, I believe we need to start looking for ideas to starting getting back to business. Because I think the fear here, in my opinion, is that we're going to start having issues where poverty becomes an issue, because a lot of people can't afford to stay out of work. That's the nature of the beast. You know what I'm saying? But again, if the WWE is going to continue doing this within the realms of staying within the rules, yeah, I'm okay with that. I'm not gonna make a big deal about that either. But there were a lot of layoffs yesterday too. Big names: DOC, Gallows and Anderson laid off. Drake Maverick laid off. He had a very emotional video after it. The Kanellis couple, Maria and Michael Bennett, Kanellis, they laid off too as well. Which is not a surprise, because they haven't really been active for about 6 months, if not longer, on TV. A lot of some decent names out there got laid off. What's the guy's name? I forgot his name, but a lot of names laid off yesterday after this announcement. So the optics are kind of bad looking for WWE in a sense about the timing of the being essential, but also laying off people and all that, and of course the stuff around the politics of it all. But this is not fun. These times are not fun times right now. It's a lot of question marks, So I don't know. It is what it is. Also lost in a couple of news. Both Bernie Sanders and Barack Obama endorsed Joe Biden for president. Obviously, Joe Biden is now the official. Well, it won't be official till the Democratic National Democratic Convention, which is whatever it's going to be. I think it's August. That they both men have endorsed Joe Biden for president. I think it's on the Bernie end. I think it's smart to kind of get out of the way, because I think if you compare this to 2016, obviously there's a lot of infighting within the Democratic Party, and Bernie took a little while before he acquiesced to the Democratic Party to endorse Hillary Clinton. There a lot of infighting, and a lot of that could be traced to why Donald Trump is president of the United States, because a lot of those Bernie supporters, then especially, felt betrayed by the party and either voted third party, voted independent, Jill Stein, Gary Johnson, or even Donald Trump, or stayed home. And all those factors obviously laid into the reason why Donald Trump's president of the United States. It's definitely part of the reason why. So the fact that Bernie Sanders was able to do this early and get out of the way, and it shows the optics of no infighting, that despite whatever you may believe and how things are done, and people candidates pull on the race to help Joe Biden, which they can do that's not illegal. That at least it shows some sort of unity and the bigger picture for the Democratic Party to defeat Donald Trump in November. Now, will it happen? I still have my doubts, but we'll see, because I've been getting a lot of not fights, but a lot of discussions with people on social media in the last week or so about even longer, and friends of mine too who are Bernie supporters who still don't understand the situation and don't understand why they never Biden, they don't want to Joe Biden, and again, that's your right, but there's a lot of bitterness, and I'm still wondering will that number be big of Bernie supporters who do not come out for Joe Biden for the sake of defeating Donald Trump. I don't know. Even Barack Obama has gotten some criticism from people too for not for whatever reason, supposedly behind the scenes he was telling people that, I guess, not support Bernie, whatever, but that's his right also too. But you can't, I don't think Barack Obama deserves any criticism here too, because Barack Obama, him endorsing anybody is a heavy endorsement. It's probably the biggest endorsement of that party. So the fact that Barack Obama didn't endorse anybody during the process of the primaries, I think it's very telling about the kind of guy Obama is. Because if he endorses Joe Biden early on, or endorses Pete Buttigieg early on, that rings heavy. Because people follow what he says, okay? So the fact that Obama didn't do that in risk of pulling, basically Obama let democracy play out the way it should have. Let the people decide. I don't see the issue there. People criticize Obama for not doing enough, but I think Obama did the right thing. Let the democracy play out. Let the people talk, instead of endorsing somebody this early on in the situation, because he knows his endorsement rings very heavy. He's a very popular. He was a fairly popular, very popular president. He's still very popular in his party. That's his facts. You have to agree with me, but those are the facts. So I think Obama did actually a favor to Bernie Sanders and others, because I think if Obama endorsed anybody but Bernie Sanders or anybody else, it's high likely that person may actually win a nomination. So I kind of agree with Obama there. This is my opinion. I kind of agree with Obama there. Not sitting out of the race and let the people play out. Let the people decide what they want, who they want as the nominee. And they decided Joe Biden. Joe Biden turned things around in South Carolina, and then he crushed Bernie in Super Tuesday. And and I'm not necessarily knock on Bernie supporters like this, because I actually like Bernie Sanders. I'm not sure I disagree with everything he does. excuse me, or says politically. There's some pushback there on my end, but I've always said Bernie Sanders is the most authentic candidate I've seen in my lifetime of any party. But again, I keep telling Bernie supporters this. You can have all the rallies you want. You can have hashtag Bernie. We're for Bernie. Hashtags and pep rallies do not win nominations or elections. Period. You have to still go to the polls. And the very fact that Bernie Sanders polled less now than he did in 2016 speaks volumes. That's not the Democratic process screwing you over. That's, well, either A, your people, and I hate to say this to point out, but young folks who do not vote enough, and this is historically proven, people who are under age of 30 are not as impactful in the polls as people who are older. Just because you don't see me or see people at rallies and stuff doesn't mean they're not saying anything. There is a big solid majority of people who still go to work and stay behind the scenes, but when it's time to go vote, they out and vote in masses, and likely voting against you. And this played out again here too. Bernie Sanders supporters were not up in droves at the polls when it mattered. Don't be mad at me for that. Don't be mad at me for telling you that. The numbers bear out. You get screwed. You screwed yourselves. Sorry, hate to break it to you. So that's that. So right now I am on season 7 of The Office on my binge update. And I gotta say this much about this. Even though a lot of folks who watch The Office, for years have said that their first 3-4 seasons are top level, and then the show falls apart pretty much to the end. And while I'll agree that to some degree that there is some tail off, because I believe the first couple seasons are amazing, I don't think the show, at least watching it right now, in my opinion, the show doesn't fall as much as you think. I think the show is still pretty strong. I think obviously, I think it's just really hard to maintain that kind of excellence for 9 seasons and having to fill in 25 plus episodes, per season. You're gonna have filler no matter what, especially on the back end of the show. That's just the nature of the beast. I mean, every show, because on one end you want to end the show. If you want a show to be strong, honestly, any show shouldn't go past 5 seasons. It's hard to maintain. Look at Grey's Anatomy. Grey's Anatomy's at what, 16 seasons in, some shit. I've stopped watching at season 12. I will watch some point, but that show went to shit pretty after like 8-9 years. It's hard to maintain excellence. So on one hand, you want the show to continue, but then the risk of a show continuing is that the writing gets stale. But I don't think The Office really fell apart as much as it did. I think The Office still. I don't know. Look, again, I'm only 17 seasons in. I'm at the point now where Michael is about to leave the show. Michael Scott, Steve Carell's character, is about to leave the show. But I think the show's held up fairly well, even with that. Just my opinion. But a lot of people say that the show fell off after 4. Like maybe a slight dip, but I think it's still maintained for the most part. Is there filler? Yeah. Are there some episodes on there? Yeah, a little bit maybe, but I think the show's held up on its own for the most part. So I can't necessarily criticize that too much. But that's just my opinion. You guys may agree with that one. So, I should be done with the show. Probably, I should be done the show. If I continue at the pace I'm at now. Obviously I got some wrestling to watch in between now and then. I watched AEW from last night and NXT. But if I have to guess, by the middle to end of next week, I should be done with the entire series. I also want to, we're planning on, if you guys listen to the podcast, to shoot this shit with me, Rosalind Ross, and GW Gross, we talk about The Office periodically in the show. What we're going to do, most likely, is, and we already discussed this already, off the record, the next podcast we do, which I'm hoping to do either, if not next week, then certainly the week after that, is we're gonna rank our 10 favorites or 10 best characters of the show individually. I'll have my 10, Rosalind will have her 10, G will have his 10, and we'll go from there. So that's the plan moving forward. once we get that done. So, because both of them are big fans of The Office, and they both are pushing me to finish the show as soon as possible. So, we'll hopefully, in the next 2 to 3 weeks, we'll have an episode where we rank all the characters of The Office on this podcast, on Earnestly podcast. All right, final thing when I go. So, this weekend is going to be the start of the first 2 parts of the documentary on the Chicago Bulls, the late 90s Chicago Bulls, the final season, The Last Dance, the 1997-98 team that won a 6th ring. Michael Jordan, of course, Pippen, Scottie Pippen, Tony Kukoc, Dennis Rodman, and others. The story behind that. It's a 10-part series, of course, which ESPN moved up because of the virus and the lockdown. It was scheduled to be out in June, but now it's coming out this weekend. First 2 parts this weekend, and every weekend after that, 2 parts going forward. 10-part series. Looking forward to watching that. I'm obviously a big basketball head, of course. I know my history. I watched that season in real time. I hated the Bulls, respect the Bulls, but hated the Bulls. Hated Jordan as a kid, but respected him. He's the greatest of all time. He's a GOAT. I hate Michael Jordan, and he's the GOAT. So I can separate the two. But Shaquille O'Neal was, I don't know what platform it was on, where he did this interview, but he was quoted as saying, basically, that when asked about whether or not his Lakers teams, specifically the three-peat team with him and Kobe from 2001 to 2000, 2001, 2002, whether or not those teams could actually beat the Bulls in a game or in a series, whatever it may be, and he said his Lakers team in their prime would have easily, quote unquote, easily beaten the Bulls in their prime. And I take a lot of issue with that. Now, look, I understand that, competitive nature, competitive spirit, Shaq's not going to sit there and just say, no, we'll lose to them no matter what. I get that. And I'm sure Kobe Bryant's alive today. God bless you, Kobe. Rest in peace. If he was alive today, he would do the same thing himself. But to say that, I think where I got triggered was the easily part. Like, do you understand the Bulls? How good they were as a team? Forget Michael Jordan, obviously what he does to the table, Pippen, Rodman, all those guys. That supporting cast of those two, that team was really, really, really good. He had. People don't talk about this enough about those 3 Bulls teams. The reason why I've always been more impressed with the first 3 Bulls teams that won titles, 91, 2, and 3, 91, 92, 93, is that I think their supporting cast earlier, and the first 3 Bulls teams, was less than in comparison to the last 3. Michael Jordan played with in my opinion, and if you know basketball, you might agree with me on this. Michael Jordan played with a stacked deck in 96, 97, 98. You're talking about a starting lineup where you may not know this as a basketball fan, but I know this because I watched basketball in real time back then too. Your point guard's Ron Harper, who at one point was an All-Star one year and was a fringe All-Star and would have been an continuing All-Star had he not hurt his knees. He was still a really good basketball player. Okay, so you had Ron Harper, Michael Jordan in the backcourt. Pippen, of course, to be the greatest wing defender in history, perimeter defender in history of the NBA. Okay, and then you had Dennis Rodman, who was obviously the greatest rebounder of all time. And then you had a complement of centers. Luke Long was a big body. And the reason why I think the Bulls would win that series in at least 6 games, if not less, is that, comparing speaking to the Lakers, the Bulls had to answer to the Lakers' weapons. Kobe and Shaq were great at that time, and no one's disputing that. But the Bulls had more weapons defensively to throw at them to limit their effectiveness versus the other way around. And let me give you an example. You're not going to beat Shaq, obviously. You're not going to stop Shaq completely. But you can slow him down and limit the impact. The Bulls had a lot of big bodies between Luke Longley, Bill Wennington, and they had another center for his name. They had 12 to 18 fouls to give up, not including Dennis Rodman, of course. Okay, to limit Shaq, to throw at Shaq. Okay, then you can put Pippen on Kobe, and Pippen could limit Kobe. I'm not saying he's going to stop Kobe, but he's going to limit Kobe. Okay. After you get past that, the Lakers' supporting cast is not. It's not going to blow you away necessarily. They're good, but they're not going to blow you away in the same way. So once you throw those guys at that point, who's gonna burn you? Because Ron Harper's a really good defender. He can shut down Derek Fisher. Whereas all the way around, okay, who's stopping Jordan? There's no answer to Michael Jordan on the Lakers. Nobody can stop Jordan. And even if you put Kobe on Jordan, who's stopping Pippen? You get what I'm saying? The Bulls have more to throw at to the Lakers than way around defensively. That's why the Bulls are a better team, because they had a stacked deck. You have more bodies to throw at Shaq. And Pippen could wear down Kobe. And after that, where do you go? There's no answer to Jordan whatsoever. There's no answer to that. And then the Lakers didn't have a Tony Kukoc type off the bench. Tony Kukoc was the best six man in basketball the last 4 years of that decade. Who's stopping Kukoc? Again, I say this because the Bulls, to me, had a stacked deck for those last 3 title runs. They had some of the best role players I've ever seen in the game of basketball. You may not know who they are, but I did. And I know how impactful they were to other teams. I mean, again, Ron Harper was an all-star at one point in his career. So what Shaq's saying is ludicrous. And I get it. He can't say that. He has to be honest, and I get all that. But you're not beating Jordan Bulls, that Bulls team. And it has less to do with Jordan and more to do with the supporting cast. So that's where I leave it at that. Anyway, now do today's Earnestly podcast. Try to stay consistent with this more often, but I enjoyed this one today. A little solo 30-minute solo podcast. Get it in, get it out. Again, I'm on Twitter at EJChristian7. You can check out the website, earnestchristian.com. Until then, we'll come soon. This podcast is on all platforms, so check it out, of course. Love you guys. Stay safe. And until the next one, love you. Take care. Bye.